Hi.
Hi guys, I set up my camera to film. Everything was fine and dandy. I went and grabbed a drink of water, changed my shirt, came back, and now it is practically pitch black outside of my window. It is about to storm so hard, but you know, we're already in this, we're already committed, so I apologize if you hear some thunder and rain happening in the background, but honestly, at the same time, it feels very fitting. It really goes with the vibes of what we're doing today because we are going to be talking through all the books I read in September and October. So the dark, the spooky, you know, kind of vibes, it goes together. So we're going to run with it. But before I get into that, I did want to talk to you guys about something very exciting that could potentially be happening that I need your help with. Basically, long story short, this company reached out to me called Trova Trip, and they wanted to talk to me about putting together a sort of bookish girlies trip. And when I say that, none of it is planned yet. This is just like an idea in the making because I need to get y'all's input about it. I, you know, have been on YouTube for years now. I've made so many connections with so many people from all over the world, but I have loved, you know, the idea of one day getting to meet some of you guys, having, you know, a deeper bond, deeper connection. So I think this could be really, really cool. I don't know what the trip will be yet. It's really gonna depend on what you guys want. If you'd like it to be a sort of book club thing, if we wanna do like a reading/writing retreat, or if we just wanna have some fun girl time with all of the above, exploring a new place together. The options are honestly endless. Where we could go is endless, the length of time, when it could be. So I need you guys to go to the link in this description. It'll be at the top of the description, and please fill out that interest survey. Let me know if you're at all interested. Please just fill it out. Let me know where you might want to go, answer the questions, and if we get enough people that are interested in it, we can move forward with actually planning the trip. So please fill it out. It does not commit you to anything, so do not worry about that. But yeah, I just think it would be such a fun, unforgettable experience. So hopefully we can make it happen. So yes, moving on to the books I read in September and October, I truly could not have hit the fall vibes better. Every single box was just checked. I've got cozy reads, I've got dark academia reads, I've got horror reads, I've got thrillers. It's just really a beautiful fall experience I painted for myself, and I had such a good time doing it. I finished the Goldfinch at the very beginning of September. I started it a month earlier because she was a very, very fat book, and I enjoyed every second of reading it. Donna Tartt is honestly just like my current girl crush. She just blows my mind with her writing. She's so unique with the structure she tells her stories in, and her books just kind of feel like a stream of consciousness in a way. You feel like you were in the main character's shoes, and you really, as you're reading it, you're like, what is the plot of this story? It feels like there is none, but then you get to the end and you realize, oh my God, so much happened, and it was such an amazing story, and it all comes together, and I just love her. But this story, The Goldfinch, follows Theodore Decker. God, I need to make an entire video on this book, and I'm going to. I need to watch the movie first, but I need to make a whole video because I can ramble about this for so long. But it follows this boy named Theodore Decker, and he is born in New York City. He lives with his mom. His father has not really been in his life for a while. He's an alcoholic. He left them essentially, and he's very close with his mom. But at the start of the story, they go to this art museum together, and Theodore is very enamored with this picture. It is this painting of a goldfinch, which is a real painting that exists. It is the one on the cover, and he's just really drawn to it. He ends up getting separated from his mom in the museum because he's looking at this painting, and basically a terrorist attack occurs at the museum. A bomb goes off, and it's a whole catastrophe. Theodore's mother does not survive it, but he does. And so the story from there on out, well, let me jump back a second. He makes it out, but kind of when he's there in the rubble and doesn't know what's going on, and it all feels like a fever dream, as he's escaping the museum, he ends up taking this painting with him. And this is a very old painting. Obviously, it's in this museum. It's not meant to just be taken. It's a work of history, and he takes it with him, slips it into his backpack, and leaves, and doesn't know why he does it. But once he does do it, it's like, you know, he's a kid. I think he's like 12 or 13 when he starts the story, and at that point he like takes it home, and now he's like, oh my God, what, I just stole this. I'm in too deep. And so from there, we see Theodore's life like play out and watch him take this painting with him all throughout kind of the rest of his childhood, moving into his teen years and then eventually his adult years. And he doesn't have a very normal coming of age story, but that's really what this is. You really see him kind of go all over the country and all over the world with this painting, and so much happens, and it's really about relationships and what it means to have a family, and you know, who you want to be, and identity struggles, and like parent-child relationships. It just, there's so many things involved. I don't even know where to begin talking about it, but yeah, like I said, the whole time you're reading it and it's like you're just watching this boy grow up and you're like, what is the plot? Like, what is happening here? But then at the end you understand that every single thing that happens that you were wondering, like, what is the point of this? Is this relevant? It is all relevant. It is all relevant. It all comes together. It all comes to a head, and your jaw will just be on the floor. And by the time I got to the end, I was like, I cannot believe this is the same book I started reading. Like, I can't believe we saw him as like a 13-year-old boy, and now like this is where we end up. And there are some quotes in the very last chapter of this book that just are some of my favorites of all time. So I adore Donna Tartt. Please read her books. She only has 3. I wish she would write more, but yeah, this was a great experience. So after reading The Goldfinch, you know, we were in the thick of fall and I really just wanted to read some thrillers. I got on a big thriller kick, so I have several in a row I'm gonna talk about. The first is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. I love Geneva Rose. She is just such a solid thriller author for me. I've read every single one she's put out, and I was really excited about this one because the concept was so interesting. It is about this group of siblings. There's 3 siblings, 2 sisters and a brother, and they kind of have a bit of an estranged relationship. One of the sisters is a drug addict. The other one has really, her life hasn't gone the way she wanted it to. She's really taken responsibility for the family. She's been the one that kind of stayed in their hometown and takes care of their mother. And then the brother just kind of left. He went on and he's become a very successful businessman. He's very wealthy. And so they're all just very different, and they all really like butt heads over their differences. And yeah, their father, whenever they were younger, kind of just randomly up and left whenever they were teenagers, and they never knew what happened to him. They just assumed that he's dead. They've just never heard from him again, and it's always been a weird sort of unspoken thing that their mother won't talk about, they don't really talk about, but they've always wondered. And so anyways, their mother has passed away. At the start of the story, she passes away, and so this brings all of the siblings back together because they're coming home to the house so that they can empty it out, you know, make funeral arrangements, all of that, whatever. And while they are emptying out the house, they come across this box of old home videos, and they decide to like put it in, watch a few, and they basically end up coming across this video of their parents burying a dead body. And that is where this story takes off. I have to admit, I figured out what was happening, or I guessed what was gonna be the sort of twist of the story within the first like 2 chapters, which is not usual for me. I read so many thrillers and you would think I would be able to guess what was gonna happen. I usually cannot, but for some reason, this story, I just kind of predicted it and I ended up being right, which kind of like ruins the experience of a thriller a little bit. But if I had not known it, I know it would have been a big kind of jaw-dropping moment. So I still really recommend reading it. I don't know, it had a lot of like nostalgia with it because of the home video aspect, and also you're seeing the present day, but you're also flashing back to the past and seeing some of what's happening through the mom's eye, like, and you see the siblings as children. It's very well done, and it was very, very good. So definitely would say to check it out. Next, I read Murder Road by Simone St. James. Simone St. James is just so good at writing a paranormal mystery. Like, she really has these thrilling books that truly scare you. The Sundown Motel was the first book of hers that I read, and I will never forget being on my couch. It was like a Friday night, I was reading it, and I got so truly paranoid. I had to go and check my mail, and I was like looking over my shoulder because I was so scared. And she's just really, really good at writing books that genuinely kind of creep you out and give you jump scares from time to time. Like, her parent, like all the ones that I've read have some sort of paranormal element to it, which I really enjoy in a thriller. I love some ghosty action, and that is definitely what we got in this book. This book follows this couple that I think they're going on their honeymoon or they're going on a vacation, and they're driving, and basically they're getting cut. It's like a small town, and it's dark, it's raining, they're lost, and they're on this really dark road, and they end up seeing this girl on the side of the road that's like hitchhiking, and she's a young girl. They pick her up, and once they start driving away, they realize that she is like bleeding. She's bleeding out, and it's like she's been attacked or stabbed. They don't know. She doesn't give them any information as to what happened, and then she ends up passing away in the backseat of their car. So now their vacation is ruined because obviously they had to call the cops, report this, and now it's pretty unexplainable, like, oh, you picked up a girl and she died in your back seat and you had nothing to do with it. So it turns into a bit of a mystery of what happened to this girl, who attacked her, and you come to find out that this road that they picked this girl up on is very known in this town for being a place where a lot of weird things have happened. It's known to be haunted. There's this one particular ghost that is seen time and time again, a ghost of a girl that's like asking for help. And so yeah, this is one of those books where you really do not know who to trust. There's a lot of characters involved, and there's a lot of people that you want to like point your finger at throughout the way, and there's so many creepy scenes in this, like so many times where I was like, oh my god, getting so freaked out. Like the ghost action in this book was very, very good. So I really, really liked it. And then at the end, you got a big surprise. So very good. I just love Simone St. James. So next, I read another thriller. This one was called Return to Midnight by Emma Dews, and this book was just all over my TikTok. As soon as we moved into fall, for some reason, it just kind of like took off and blew up, and I saw several people recommending it. So I decided to just go into it totally blind, having no idea what it was about. And I almost wish that I did know what it was about, because I might not have read it. This book had to have been based off of the Idaho murders. If it wasn't, it's just very, very similar of a situation. I am not a very paranoid person. Honestly, most of my friends would say I'm the opposite of paranoid. I should probably be a little more paranoid. But when the Idaho murders happened back in, it might have been like 2 years ago now, I had trouble sleeping for a while. I kept waking up in the middle of the night, just like gasping, freaking out, thinking someone was in my apartment. I've never been so scared by a murder case, because if you don't know, the Idaho murders was basically these students from this college in Idaho were living in this house together, and seemingly just for no reason, completely randomly, this man broke into their house and murdered 4 of them just in their sleep, in their bedrooms, and left like, I think 2 people in the house he just left alive, and none of it made any sense. And it was just so scary, the idea of just being asleep and totally vulnerable and someone just breaking into your house for no reason and just killing you in the comfort of your own bed. It was just so scary and vile, and that is basically what this book is about. This story kind of centers around this event called the Midnight Massacre that is just this very popular murder story that people have followed for a long time, and the main character in this story was one of the only surviving people from that massacre. And so she now, basically she lived in this house just like the Idaho murders. She was a dancer at this college, and she lived in this house with several other girls, several other dancers, and one night somebody murdered several people in the house, and she was one of the only people that got out alive. And now, present day, many years have gone by. She is a writer, a very famous writer, and people have been offering her a book deal for a long time to essentially write a story based on the events of the Midnight Massacre, and she's been very against it, but now finally she has agreed to do it. So she's in this position where she's kind of having to revisit the events of that night for the first time in a very long time, having to open that wound. And the thing is, something about what happened that night has just never sat right with her. The person that was accused of doing it, just, she never could understand it, but it was, you know, it seemed to make sense. Like, there's evidence, like, it's all right there in front of you. They did it. The person's in jail now, but it just, she didn't ever really understand it. So now she kind of like is going back and trying to put the pieces together of what led up to that night and what really happened, and it becomes a bit of like a mystery, trying to figure out if, you know, they got it right and justice was really served, I guess. So you're seeing that, but then you're also jumping back to the past and you're seeing everything that happened leading up to the massacre. It's, you know, it's very cool how it's like 1 day before the massacre, 12 hours before the massacre, 2 hours before the massacre, 5 minutes before the massacre. And it's like very suspenseful in the way it leads up. But I have to say, I didn't end up loving this book in the end. It was a little odd to me because I love when thrillers kind of have like multiple twists. You're kind of like going through the journey and you never really know what's happening until the end. Or I like whenever you think you know what happens, but it ends up being something else. And with this story, it was just kind of odd to me because I felt like you figured out what happened with quite a bit of book left. And the whole time I was like, okay, this can't be it. It felt very random. You know, you're kind of like, you know, all these characters, you're kind of heading one way, and then it sort of like introduced this new concept very randomly, and it was like, oh, this is what happened, and I thought that it would not be that, but then this big sort of reveal happens, and it was that. And it was just, I don't know, it was very anticlimactic to me. So the concept I thought was very good, the structure of it was very good, it was very suspenseful, but in the end it just kind of fell flat for me. So I would say this is one you can skip, but I am gonna check out other books by this author because I did like her writing style. So up next, I read The September House by Carissa Orlando, and this was just a true haunted house story. It really satisfied my need for a good Halloween type of read. Basically, it follows this couple named Margaret and Hal. They have been looking for their dream home for a long time, and they finally come across it. It is this beautiful Victorian style house, and it's everything they have ever wanted. And it's very weird because the price tag on it is very low, but they just don't ask any questions. They buy it, they move in, and everything seems beautiful and perfect at first, but once September rolls around, they realize why the price was so low, because the house comes alive in September. Blood is literally dripping from the walls, ghosts appear, they're just being terrorized, the things are being moved, there's this very evil spirit that lives in the basement. It's just pure chaos, and Hal obviously is not really about living there anymore. He wants to leave, but Margaret is very determined. This is her dream home. If every other month out of the year is okay, she can deal with September, and so she convinces him to stay. And they get through a couple of years of this, but finally 1 year Hal is just cannot handle it anymore. He up and leaves very abruptly. He's not returning her calls, and to make matters worse, their daughter Catherine, who they kind of have an odd, estranged relationship with, she decides to show up because she is trying to get a hold of her dad and cannot get a hold of him. So she informs her mom like she is coming, and she's never been to this house before and has no idea that it's haunted. So yeah, this story has a lot of twists and turns to it, kind of trying to figure out what is going on in this house, what happened to Hal, where is he. Their daughter Catherine also very crazy. I say crazy, she has definitely some like mental health struggles that doesn't make the situation any easier to deal with for Margaret. This story is very graphic, I will say. A lot of gore involved in it, a lot of action with the ghosts and the spirits, and yeah, if you are not into that, it's a bit much. There's a lot of descriptions of very insane things happening to these spirits and the people in the house, and lots of death. So yeah, it was fun for October, but you might not love it every other time of the year. So sticking with the theme of haunted houses, up next I read Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This story follows this woman named Maggie, and basically whenever she was a little girl, her family moved into, once again, this beautiful Victorian style home that also came at a very good price because this house has a very dark history. There was a very gruesome, horrible murder that happened there, and along with that, several other people died there. Her mother was hesitant about moving in, but her father really loved the place, convinced her, and they bought it, but they did not end up staying there for very long because less than a month later, the entire family ended up fleeing in the middle of the night without any of their belongings because this house was apparently very haunted. And I say apparently because Maggie has no memories of that. She knows that she lived there. I mean, she was about 6 years old whenever they moved in, so she has memories, but for some reason she does not remember that night, and she does not remember the house being haunted, even though apparently It was because her father ended up going on to write a book about their experiences living there, what took place, what ultimately happened that evening, and it became this worldwide sensation, bestseller. That house is very well known around the world now. People come to Vermont and visit that house because they want to see the ghosts, they want to know all about it. And now, you know, Maggie just has always kind of had a weird relationship with her father as an adult ever since he wrote that book, because she just thinks he made it all up. She doesn't remember that, and she thinks he made it up to make a quick buck. But she really doesn't know. She doesn't know why they left, why they ran away, and why they never returned. And now her father has passed away, and she's, you know, learning about his will, what he's left behind to her, and it turns out her father never sold that house. So she doesn't know why. She has no idea why he kept the house. And not only did he keep it, it turns out that every year he has returned to the house on the same night that they left. He's returned every year since, and it's been many years now. So she doesn't know what to make out of all of that, but she knows that she now has this house that she has to take care of. She wants to just go there, fix it up a little bit, sell it, and just like wipe her hands of it. So she's returning to this town in Vermont, and a lot of people aren't very happy to see her because most of the locals have a bone to pick with her family because they don't like that they've brought all of this tourism to the town. Most people believe that her father did make it up, but nobody really knows is the thing. So now Maggie is here and she's fixing up the house, and weird things start to happen, and it kind of leads her to wanting to figure out, is this place really haunted or not? So we're seeing that present day, and then we're also seeing in the past everything that happened there while the family was living there from her father's perspective. So I really loved the jumping back and forth in the perspectives. I loved, you know, that we kind of had like an unreliable narrator in the story. You never really know who to believe, who to trust, what's actually going on. And what I really liked about it is up until the end, like there was a plot twist and another plot twist and another plot twist, and I did not know where it was gonna go, but by the end, I was very happy with it. Definitely one of my favorite Riley Sager books I've read. I'm trying to think how many I've read. I feel like I've only maybe read like 4. I need to read more of his books. I do really like them, but yeah, it was definitely good. The one thing about it that did not make sense to me was the title. Home Before Dark, nothing about it made sense. It had no relevance. It was never once said in the story. In all honesty, I feel like you don't want to be home before dark. I wouldn't even want to be in that home in the dark because everything bad that happens when it's dark. So does not make sense, and that kind of annoyed me. I ended up finding an entire Goodreads thread of people agreeing, being like, so why was it called this? And nobody could really answer the question. I think he just didn't know what to title it, and the publishers like slapped the title on there because they knew it would sell, and you know what? They were right, because the title definitely intrigued me and sucked me in. But yeah, definitely a very good little ghost story. Or not ghost story, who knows? You'll have to read it. And then next, I finally did it. I finished my annotation of what is, in my opinion, the greatest book to ever exist, the greatest story maybe to ever be told, Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I cannot even begin to express how much this book means to me. I need to make an entire video on it. I have been promising that for what I feel like is 6+ months now. I will do it. I promise I'll do it very soon. It's just, I think it will be an hour long is the thing, because I could write a 50-page dissertation about why this book is so good, so important, so necessary. I think every woman should be required to read this book in school, like maybe 7th grade, right in that like going into puberty sort of stage. I just think every person should read it. It's just truly embodies the experience of being a girl, being a woman, being a daughter, a friend, a sister, a wife, a mother, like all the way through. There's just so many beautiful quotes in this book. And what really gets me about it is the fact that it was written in the mid 1800s. It is about 4 sisters and their journey growing up and becoming who they are, and they're all very distinctly different. I feel like in this, when you're reading this book, when you're watching the movie, Greta Gerwig's Little Women, favorite movie of all time, when you're watching the movie, reading the book, there's gonna be one sister that you resonate with the most for sure. but also at some point in your life, you've been every single one of them. And I stand by that. It's just crazy to me that it was written in the mid 1800s around the time of the Civil War, and so many things that happen in this story, like so many things that clearly Louisa May Alcott thought at the time, things she was going through, just all the things that these girls go through as girls. It's like exactly what we're going through today. It's just so relevant, and it's so crazy because it was so long ago. I think you kind of like, at least when I think about the past, like the 1800s, it just feels like, oh, it's a totally different time. Like everyone was just, you know, people had no time to think about love and play and being just a girl. And it's like, no, we've always just been girls, and it's so beautiful. I'm not gonna talk about it anymore here because I won't be able to stop myself. But yes, I'm gonna do a full video on this, and I might even do it's gonna have to be a multiple part series if I do it, because it will take me so long. I kind of want to go through every single one of my tabs and like talk about the scene and why I tabbed it, and just like kind of walk through the entire book. That's kind of like a crazy idea I have, but I might just have to do it because I just kind of want to do it, and if anybody cares, they can watch it. So yeah, perhaps be on the lookout for that. So those are all of the books that I finished in September and October. I do have 2 books in progress right now. The first is It by Stephen King. Everyone knows It. It is about the killer clown that is killing all the children in this small town in Derry, Maine, and they're trying to put a stop to it. I think I'm done with this book for now. I might return to it next Halloween season, but it is just so long. It's 1,200 pages long. I read about 400 pages of it. I did like it. It is entertaining. Honestly, the book or the movie really follows it closely, so I kind of felt like I knew what was happening and I knew what was going to happen. I enjoyed it. It's a little dry, it's a little boring, and I have to put it down. It like nearly is putting me into a reading slump, so I'm just gonna put it back on my shelf, and then maybe I'll read another 400 pages next Halloween and then another 400 the following. But other than that, I am currently reading The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm not gonna say anything about this. This is a book that also was written in the 1800s, and possibly just as many quotes in this tiny short book that I'm going to be highlighting as Little Women, which is a crazy statement. We'll definitely be returning with a full video on this book. But yeah, guys, that is it. That is my September and October reading wrap up. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to hear all your thoughts in the comments down below. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.